Greetings. I'm Paul-Gregory, the editor and sole contributor to Mental Aikido, as well as one of the contributors to Tyrannical.com. Last August, I completed a 24-year-long career that I loved, serving this country that I adore. I served faithfully and held to my oath to serve and protect and defend the U.S. Constitution and the citizens of this great republic. Every second was more than a worthy sacrifice to defend the ideals set forth by our nation's founders and further projected and protected and maintained by those many generations of faithful patriots that preceded me. So to me, it was a distinct honor to not only take that oath but to uphold that oath. And I kind of want to explain how I continue to do so. Um, You see, during my career, early on in my military career, one of my leaders came up to me and asked me if I had actually read the U.S. Constitution that had taken the oath to support and defend against all enemies. And of course I had. Like many students, I had taken a test back in seventh or eighth grade in order to gain admission to high school, and then another one in order to graduate high school. So I had read and taken tests and studied the Constitution and some of the history behind it, and then furthered those studies as well in college, and read the Constitution there. But now I actually did sit down and that first time I read it with a new perspective and in a new light, and as somebody that was dedicated to supporting and defending it. And since then, I have read the U.S. Constitution at least once a week, since dating all the way back into the late 1980s. And since I retired, I from my active military service, I found that I couldn't just easily relinquish fighting for those natural rights and ideals and tenets sent forth by the U.S. Constitution, which is the supreme law of our land. And after retiring, I also went and started doing even further and more in-depth study into where these ideals came from and how they came about. Reading yet again and reading several times since the Federalist Papers and doing further research beyond those to see where Madison, Hamilton, and Jay got their ideals from. And then I've also went and read the base philosophies, and some of them were rereading in reapplication as far as the Declaration of Independence and a lot of those ideals and other documents that were written in between the Articles of the Confederation, the Constitution for the state of Virginia, and the like. So I increased that personal study, and I look around, and not only do I see a continuous exterior threat from tyranny and terrorists around the world who don't like our ideals of individual liberty and natural rights and people being free to pursue what they feel best, or to acquire things and to pursue happiness and live their lives according to their own individual values, including the value of charity. um, just one quick side note, that the concept of charity doesn't mean the government comes in and says, we're going to take your money because we're going to go and do something good with it. Charity must be done of your own free will, where you see something that you'd like to have done and some good that you'd like to do, and you go and do that, or you give money or goods to it, or time or effort. That's charity. That's done out of free will. When the government does it, it's not charity. Sorry, guys. Not pulling the wool over this guy's eyes. I've been around the block way too many times. But not just seeing those exterior threats, getting back to subject, I also started noticing there's threats from within. Now I've known about these threats and some of the, the times of McCarthyism, and how there were a lot of red flashes and flares being sent up saying, hey, we've got the invading communists. And really, starting as far back as Woodrow Wilson, I discovered that there has been a movement that sees the Constitution as morally relevant, that they can just alter it as they feel, instead of sticking to the very base ideals that were there. And these same ideals have continued forward, and that movement has to a great extent grown over the years. And seeing that threat to our ideology from within, I think Andrew Breitbart, looking at the way the media is portraying things, and the way various groups out there portray things and the way people are misled and etc., that he actually summed it up what's going on in one clear word: war. We are at war. We're not in a war, an internal war here in the United States of brother against brother like we had in the Civil War, and people against people and throwing rocks and shooting bullets and all that nasty stuff. No, we're in a war against some key concepts called complacency and apathy and ignorance. And that those are more scary than an outright in your face, I'm going to hurt you type threat. And you can't fight against those with conventional weapons. And I highly suggest that nobody try, because that's just, sorry, wrong. Um, but we're at war with so-called educators who come up and lie directly to our children and attempt to indoctrinate them in the very ideologies that our founders fought against and rose up against. We're you know we're fighting against ideologies that directly oppose the very founding ideals of our great and free republic. We're fighting a war of free will and individual natural rights against tyranny and against laziness of, you know, the government will just take care of me. Well, what about the pride and the good portion of taking care of yourself? The accomplishments. Those are being poo-pooed away as through moral relevancy, or they're being ignored or obfuscated. So we're in a war of ideology, and our weapons are not conventional weapons, guys. They're not. You can't fight this war with guns and bullets and bombs. Although some people think they can, and the majority of those people that I've encountered tend to be on the Marxist and Marcusian side of things. You know, if you want to see examples of that, just look at the Occupy movement. Their black bloc going through and smashing people's private business windows and trashing their stores and stealing their livelihood through the use of force. You know, that is just wrong. And the best way to fight that ideology is not only to expose it for what it really is, but to use our own weapons, which are our voices, to speak, to write, to debate. And to do that accurately, we need to go back and use proper ammunition. And that proper ammunition isn't bullets or bombs or rockets. It's the truth. It's facts. It is justified formula. It is laws of physics and economics. And it's proven theories, not just hypotheses. Socialism is a hypothesis. It doesn't. It's every time it's been tried, it's proven not to work. It's a hypothesis, not a theory. Um, so we go and we use those, and probably the biggest form of ammunition we have are our votes. Um, I'm dead set against telling people who they should vote for or why they should vote. Or I shouldn't say why they should vote, but why they should vote for a certain person. If they ask me who I'm voting for and why I'm voting for that person, I'll explain it. But I'm not going to tell somebody, you need to vote for so and so. I believe in making up your own mind. And it takes discipline, diligence, and devotion to seeking the truth to really employ these weapons and this ammunition that I've talked about, and I'm talking about it allegorically, by the way. Um, so I ask everybody to, especially this year and during these important times, to set their party allegiance aside and instead sit back and actually look at the facts, look at the data. If you see an infographic, ask what the data set is behind it and what formulas were used, and see if it's accurate or not. Just don't believe it because it's got fancy colors and has somebody's name written on the bottom and looks all official and everything. They could be wrong, and in many cases they've proven to be wrong when somebody actually went through and took a broader look at the data, or took a broader sample population instead of a very small one that showed what they wanted to show. They took a broad one and showed reality. So I ask you to do that before casting your ballots. Um, and one thing I want everybody to kind of take a look at as they're doing this is look into the wording and the meanings and intents of some of these treaties that are coming down called Agenda 21. And these are things that certain people would love to see happen because it actually undermines the authority of our own U.S. Constitution and our own individual sovereignty. If you look at them, I'm sure that's you're going to see the same thing I did with that. And look into those bills, and then look into who's pledged to vote to ratify and not ratify, and look at your candidates with that. Not just dealing with the president. I'm dealing with everything from the most local level to all the way up to the pinnacle. And while you're at it, go through and go on various websites and read the actual text of bills and laws that are either have been passed or are being proposed. Read the U.S. Supreme Court decisions as they come down, as well as the appellate and circuit court decisions. That they're available on the web. You look at them, you can see what these justices actually wrote, and you can also look at the arguments that led up to them. Read those. Check the data. Don't just take somebody else's word for it. Do your due diligence. Don't be lazy. Get involved. This is your life that we're talking about. When I went back and mentioned complacency, that's half the problem. You sit there and say, "Oh, it doesn't matter. Oh, it's just politics. Oh, it doesn't matter." And next thing you know, you're wondering why your paycheck is suddenly 25% lower, yet you got a raise. Well, those are those taxes that you were all complacent about and not paying attention to, and so that's just an example. Now, I want to say that I do not support the party line of any political party. I don't. What I do is I go through and I look at the candidates that are out there and look at the parties that are out there and see if their party line matches up with my values and what I hold dear. And if they don't, and it might not be a whole party, it might be a single candidate. If they don't, they're not getting my support. I will go with whoever's closest. They don't have to be 100% perfect in line, but whoever's closest to those highest priorities that I have in my life and my liberty. And I urge everybody to do that. And again, I'm not a member of any political PAC, although I do meet with some of them and hear what they have to say on both sides of the aisle or multiple sides of the aisle because there are more than just two parties. Um, I'm not a member of any PAC or any campaign. I've lent support to several simply because I believe in the candidate. But I'm just one man who loves this great republic and everything she stands for, and I swear to continue to maintain my oath. And although I'm not in uniform and fighting with some military unit, I am going to sit back. I'm going to stay here, and I'm going to stand up for what I think is right, and I'm going to do so in the most legal and effective and proper moral way that I can. And I urge everybody else to do the same thing. Do so with information and not ignorance. Don't just do so because it's the cool thing. Do so because it's the right thing. Thank you for your time in watching this, and I hope everybody has a great and wonderful day. God bless you and God bless America. And can I find my... Bye bye.